You would be. Because you are an industry based upon facts and truth and fundamental realities. You cannot go off on a deep end, drilling where you think it should be drilling, you should be drilling. You have to have actual data. And if you fail to do your work the right way, you go out of business. Well, the reality is government never goes out of business. No matter how badly done things are, no matter how flawed they are. I'm not going to take up any more time because there's other people that need to speak to you. And this is what I want to say to you, is that this group, this gathering is important because it keeps reminding those folks in Washington that we will not accept anything other than the truth and facts. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dennis. Give Dennis a great round of applause for his work this past year. Without it, the counties would not have had the information that we needed to send to Washington as a basis for our request of finding that it's not warranted. I think Haley and some of the folks from the chambers are sending out pamphlets like this. Please get one, and you can send your comments to the Fish and Wildlife Service and Dan Ash, and just implore him not to list the lizard. It's important. Our voice can still be heard. One of the gentlemen who's already been up on the stage, but kind of kicked this off in Artesia back in January of 2010 or December 2010, January 2011, is the mayor of the city of Artesia. And he was invited to go out to the oil patch today with the president, but he decided to stay here with us. Yay. So I'll welcome Mayor Phil Birch to the microphone again, and he can tell us a little bit about Artesia and their big fight against this listing.
Thank you, Greg. I've had the pleasure of going to Washington on 4 occasions with Greg Nybert, and he is a fine representative of Chaves County and of Roswell, and expressing the needs of Chaves County and Roswell and the oil and gas and agriculture businesses. And it's always been my pleasure to be in a group with him. I did receive an invitation to something happening out in Maljamar today, and I want to read it because I think it's important. It says, Dear Mayor Birch, on Wednesday, March 21st, President Obama will travel to the oil and gas production fields located in federal lands outside of Carlsbad, New Mexico. I don't think they know where Artesia is, but while in New Mexico, the President will highlight the administration's commitment to expanding domestic oil and gas production, which has increased each year he has been in office, with domestic oil production currently at an 8-year high and domestic natural gas production at an all-time high. What's not said is these levels were reached in spite of the current administration and their current policies.
Amen.
Greg wanted to limit it to the lizard issue, and I can't stay there. I've got to say something. These are words on a piece of paper. What the American public isn't seeing and isn't getting from the media is the fact that this president and administration has kept oil business out of the ANWR in Alaska. They are keeping them out of the deep waters in the Gulf of Mexico. They have killed the project of the Keystone Pipeline, which would add 20,000 jobs in the United States, plus jobs in processing that oil once it was completed. This administration and this president are the ones that want to more tax on oil and gas. This administration and this president are the ones that want to take incentives from oil and gas companies. Those are actions. These are words. Your mother told you and my mother told me, actions speak louder than words. These are words. The actions of this president and this administration are detrimental to jobs in New Mexico and companies in New Mexico.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Birch is always an advocate not only for his community but for all of southeast New Mexico and all of the state, and we are certainly pleased that Mayor, you come up to from Artesia today to Roswell to be with us today and brought a contingent from Eddy County. We appreciate your leadership not only on this issue, but we've been striving to keep the building to my back open, ILEA, and Mayor Birch has been instrumental with our effort to do that, as well as our supporting his efforts to enhance the federal law enforcement training facility down in Artesia. We will be going to Washington next month to do that again. At this time, I'll ask Commissioner Derrick from Eddy County to say a few words from the Eddy County Commission, and he has some interesting facts. He's been in this fight with a couple hats on. Number one, a rancher that covers a lot of that sand dune country, and also as a commissioner from Eddy County that's been at the forefront of this fight with our commission. So at this time, Louis Derrick.
Good afternoon. I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to be Mr. Obama's advisor today. I'm glad that he did come to southeast New Mexico to find out where it's at. I'm glad he, I don't know if he'll know exactly where Maljamar is, but I wished he'd have showed up early to eat at the little mom and pop cafe there at noon to see how many oil and gas workers would be in that little building, doing a little economic enhancement in that little place. In Eddy County right now we have right around 4% unemployment, and I appreciate him coming for just a few minutes, but I wished he'd have stayed a few hours. I wished he would have come up and visited with the oil and gas operators, or utilities, or rural utilities that's out there, P&M, different companies that works out here. I wished he'd have went on the ground and talked to the livestock operators. I wished he'd have went out there on the ground and talked to the owners of the pulling units, the drilling rigs, and the people that throwing chain and tripping pipe out there in either 10-degree weather or 110-degree weather with oil running down their back. Just to show where it comes from. We're always talking about big oil, big gas, but they never understand who's out there busting it out there to keep the economics going, and that's your working man. Every bit of it.
Amen.
We look at the issues of looking at if he had come in and into the city of Artesia, and our motels and hotels and our restaurants at noon when the oil and gas people, or Riverside. Would you believe a building we have in Riverside, an office that big? If you haven't ever seen it, drive about 5 miles east of Artesia. You would never believe an office like that in Riverside, New Mexico.
It's there.
But it was done by private enterprise, free enterprise, and the working man. Also, I'm going to throw a little bit more in. We've got our neighbors to the west, Otero County and Lincoln County. Instead of healthy watersheds up there, our forests are burning down. That could be economy going into selling timber. Our watersheds affect the Pecos Valley, our water system for our crops. But we've got to protect the spotted owl. And if you didn't know, Otero County is in the middle of a lawsuit with the federal government trying to get their timber cut. And I think we ought to be backing them and wishing them the best, and I hope the state gets behind them. Really do. Another thing I want to be an advisor, if he's listening today. We have 1,984 rigs running offshore in the United States onshore. And he stated that that was the most drilling that's ever been produced in ever. Well, I went back and did a little research. In 1981, we had 3,969 rigs running offshore and onshore in the United States of America. So we're about 2,000 off. We're not drilling more than we ever have. Another thing that I just want to say, you listen to what I said economically. That's exactly why we don't need to be listing lizards. We don't need to be listing prairie chickens. It affects the jobs of southeast New Mexico. It puts billions of dollars into our state. It puts millions of dollars into our local economies. And I think they forget, they always seem to call New Mexico a welfare state, but they forget on this federal land, 52% of that oil and gas royalty goes back to Washington, D.C. that we don't see. And I guarantee you, that's billions of dollars over the years we've sent back to Washington, D.C. And they still can't run their federal lands on what we've sent them. So that's a problem. Another thing is the Department of Energy. Billions and billions of dollars has been spent on our Department of Energy. But they need a plan. They have not produced one drop of oil, not one drop of gas. They need to put an energy plan with the trillions and trillions of cubic foot of natural gas that we have. They need to start doing an energy plan across the United States.
We need to abolish.
They have not produced nothing except regulations and restrictions, along with some other bureaucratic agencies. But our oil and gas has poured a lot of money, and so other industries, livestock producers too, of trying to keep these species from not being listed. And I'm talking about lizard number 1 and the prairie chicken number 2. So anyway, Mr. Obama, I'm glad you come to southeast New Mexico, but I hope you take advice from a redneck county commissioner that's lived here all his life and listens up to the local people.
Thank you, Louis, and we sure hope that he does